2015. His funeral was held on 25th November, and I know some councillors, including myself and the mayor, and some ex-chairman and officers attended. Councillor Sharp, I understand you would like to say a few words.
Thank you very much, Madam Chairman. It's actually a shock to realise but I think where this last time is happening, his contribution to the council and to the town. George was councillor for Park Ward from 2004 to 2016, the second Liberal Democrat to be elected for the area. And not the least of his roles was an effective and articulate advocate for his constituents. But while there could perhaps be a tendency sometimes for people to talk about Castlebury as if it was a place apart from the rest of Watford, George was always keen to stress the role it played in the life of the town, from being the location of the town's major park or the contribution its residents made to Watford's thriving voluntary sector. George held various senior roles in the council, whether as chair of the then Policy and Development Scrutiny Committee, vice chair of Development Control, and chair of the Senior Officers Pay Panel, and as you mentioned, Madam Chairman, chairman of the council during 2014 to 15. In many ways, the role he played in our group, and he was a very important part of the first stages of this administration. And he was what every administration needs from a leading councillor who isn't in the cabinet. He was always loyal but never sycophantic, always one to challenge but never to intrigue. George, by his own description, could be argumentative, but when he was speaking, people listened, and if you found yourself being questioned by him, whether in a group or council committee meeting, you needed to be on your mettle. He was positive about what the council and this administration were trying to achieve. There were many initiatives one could point to that he championed, but perhaps the most important was the scrutiny report that led to the Coliseum being brought back into use as a music and entertainment venue, supported by the council but managed by a specialist operator. George deserves significant credit for the fact that we can all still enjoy live performances showcasing the amazing acoustics of the Coliseum. I should also mention his role on Development Management Committee, on which he served throughout his term of office, and where he was again always an influential voice. As it's an unwhipped committee, he and I often had very lively disagreements, as anybody who witnessed will remember, but we never fell out. And indeed, that was always true of George. He was a gentleman, unfailingly courteous, always good fun to talk to over a pint in the pub or a cup of tea in the town hall. He and his wife Elaine were also welcoming and generous hosts of several Liberal Democrat group Christmas meals. He had a considerable hinterland outside politics, covering music, literature, football. He was a lifelong Manchester City supporter, even in their darkest days, as well as having had a very interesting professional life, including working for the BBC and latterly for the Hong Kong Academy for the Performing Arts. He was a family man, very proud to talk about the achievements of his children and grandchildren. After standing down as a councillor, George continued to take an active interest in public life in Watford and more widely. He threw himself with an energy that belied his age into the campaign for a people's vote on Brexit, and was really, until he met his final illness, was still very active in the causes he supported. Sadly, George's last few years were troubled by cruel illness, but in this full council meeting, we should remember him as a good friend and colleague, someone whose achievements were considerable and whose contribution to our deliberations were always thoughtful and wise.
Thank you, Councillor Sharp, for that wonderful tribute. Nigel.
Thank you, Chair. Just a few lines, because I hadn't prepared tonight. I did send a fairly long thing into as a tribute to George originally, and obviously I did attend his funeral. So obviously I can't really beat Councillor Sharp, but obviously he knew him very well. But he was, as I say, just to add that to George, that he was a fair and decent man who always listened to all views, especially when he was chair, before he took his position. His humour was often key when he was chair, but also in all the committees that he was on, as Councillor Sharp said, certainly Development and Management Committee, and also obviously Budget Scrutiny at the time, but any major committees, so often you always waited for George. And the one thing about George in the end, some people got the wrong impression. He certainly wasn't pompous, because when you hear, he would, as I say, he'd wait to say something, and then in the end, so often, it was his humour that was key. So I think I'll always remember him as someone, he may have been on the other side, but he was always very fair. And I think, I know that Councillor Shah had always said that you used to work with him, didn't you, when you were for the Citizen Advice Bureau? And I think that showed what he was like in his commitment to try and help people of all views. So, yeah, certainly we want to pay due tribute to George, who was a decent and good man. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Bell. Council Vice Chair of Watford Borough Council 2026-27. At the next meeting in March, I will be announcing nominations for 2026-2027 Vice Chairman of Watford. Each person nominated will need to be proposed and seconded. Council will then be asked to vote for their preferred candidate. The Democratic Services Lead will be writing to all councillors shortly with further details. I'd like to remind all councillors that their applications to spend their neighbourhood locality budget must be completed and submitted to Democratic Services by the end of February, ensuring they can be completed by the start of the pre-election period of 25th of March. If you have any question, please contact Democratic Services. I wanted to brief the council of my events since the last council. I had the honor of hosting a visit by the High Sheriff of Hertfordshire on 28th of November. We visited Castleberry Park, including the Peace Garden and the wetlands. We also had the honor of visiting Random Cafe and Gardens, where we were also joined by the mayor. I also held a civic service on the 7th of December at Westspring Church, which was well attended by different mayors and Lord Lieutenant on the day. Coming up on 13th of March, I will have my last charity fundraising event, which is a rock and roll bingo and a quiz night at Everett Rovers at North Watford. Looking forward to see many of us so we can raise a lot of funds. Mayor's report. A report of the mayor is attached to the agenda. Please, can you raise your hand now if you wish to ask a question of the mayor? I will then make a note of all members who wish to ask a question and read it out to make sure I have everyone indicated. Councillor Shah. Councillor Williams. Councillor Bell. Yeah. Okay, Councillor Suleiman. Taylor. Councillor Taylor. Okay. Shah. Okay, so let's start that way. Councillor Shah. Sorry, just a second.
Okay. Oh, is it okay? I thought she said Shah. Sorry.
Thank you, Chairman, and it's good to join you all this evening. I would, of course, like to welcome Councillor Roberts as well, and, of course, associate myself with the comments Councillor Sharp made about George Darbridge, who was a phenomenal councillor and a great person. One thing to just update Council on since I produced the report was the Vitality Index, which is put together and says, where's a good place to live, to bring up a family, to start a business, to support our environment outside of London. And for the 4th year in a row, Watford is in the top 3, which I think is a phenomenal achievement and testament to the hard work of many people.
Can I remind everyone that you have no more than 1 minute per question? There will be no statements or supplementaries, except for Councillor Bell as the leader of the main opposition group, who may ask a supplementary question. Only members on the list may ask questions. So should we start with Councillor Shah?
Chair. We know the government has given funding to Hertfordshire County Council for the repair of potholes. Has Watford Council applied for any funding to repair the potholes, as we have so many in Watford, particularly in Vicarage? Thank you.
Thanks for the question. I would have thought that someone who's been a councillor for many years might know that there's things that Watford Council do and things that Hertfordshire County Council do, and definitely highways is responsibility of Hertfordshire County Council. I now, along with many people in this chamber, have the pleasure of being a county council as well as part of this council, and I think it's important that we're all aware that actually the county council's funding is being cut by £41 million by the Labour government. And so while it's interesting that Labour politicians in Watford are kind of praising their government and saying it's great news for this town, the reality is that the Labour-led government at Westminster is cutting funding for the county council, who provide vital services for people with special educational needs to improve our transport and our roads. And I think it's shameful, actually, that the Labour Party are cutting funding to councils that provide such important services.
Councillor Suleiman. Sorry.
I appreciate Watford Council reaccreditation as a white ribbon organization and the range of community events it has been hosted to address gender-based violence. At the same time, I would request that equal consideration be given to awareness programs supporting male victims of abuse and violence. According to the Office of National Statistics, in the year ending March 2025, an estimated 1.5 million men experienced domestic abuse. Roughly 1/3 of all domestic abuse victims were male. So my request is to kindly do something on this side as well.
Thank you, Councillor, for raising that question. I would hope that everyone actually believes that all forms of domestic abuse, be it against women or men, are things that we don't support. We want to see a society where there is no domestic abuse. Watford's Healthy Hub actually provides domestic abuse services. They provide services for all residents who need them. The White Ribbon campaign is actually something about challenging prejudice, misogyny, discrimination, and I think it's really great that Watford Council has led on that. I'd pay tribute to people like Councillor Agadaichen, who has been really instrumental in working with the Women's Centre, with other groups in the town, to challenge all forms of discrimination.
Thank you, Chair. Mayor, you realise, or recently we saw the report about the low number, I think there's only one fine for littering in Watford recently. Can you comment on that?
Yeah, thank you for raising it. I think all of us want to live in a town where there is less littering. We've increased the fine for littering, and obviously later we're discussing a budget that increases the number of people who work in enforcing these rules so that we tackle fly tipping, littering, dog fouling. I know that Councillor Williams does a lot of work on that. When it comes to something like fly tipping, actually, we're one of the councils that issued the most number of fixed penalty notices for fly tipping, and actually has seen the number of fly tipping incidents on the decrease. I know that all councillors work really hard on making sure that we have a clean and tidy town. One thing that does, I think, skew the statistics in some places, they hire private businesses whose entire income comes from generating fines. And so you see cases in the press where people have chucked an apple core and got a fine. So I think we've got to be careful about going down that route. But we want enforcement, and we want to make sure that we have a clean town.
Thank you, Mayor. I just, obviously, yeah, and I do support what's in the budget. I'll say later on, I'm sure. But it's just that, so are you saying that that's the reason then why Watford, I think we only find one person or company in the last few years compared to lots of other companies? I mean, it's not the fact that we weren't using all of the legal constraints or the legal things that we could use. That's what just, I think people want to see that everything used that we can. And there was some talk by residents and that maybe we're not, that we weren't doing enough.
Yeah, I mean, all I'd say is it's not just about littering fines. There's fly tipping as well, which I know is raised with us by lots of people. The other thing that we do really well with Veolia is actually proactive work. We don't want people to litter or to fly tip in the first place. And there's a lot of work that actually goes on about raising awareness about issues. So, for example, in some countries, it's expected that you'd put household waste next to a litter bin. That's just part of the way that rubbish is collected. In this country, we don't encourage that, and sometimes there's work to educate local communities on that. So there is a lot of work that goes on, both by officers in this council and with Veolia. But as I said earlier, the key thing is that we're actually increasing the enforcement capacity of this council. And I know that all of us should be working really hard to tackle those issues in our community.
Councillor Taylor.
Thank you. Hello, Mayor Taylor. I just noted in your report the section on the work that's been going on to do with rezoning of the Watford stations. Just in the same vein on work to do with local stations, I was wondering if I could please ask you to comment on the really upsetting decision of DfT to remove Bushy Station from the list of stations that will be receiving funding for accessibility upgrade works.
Yeah, thank you, Councillor Clark-Taylor, for your work on this. Karen has worked really hard. I know that all of us who live near that station and use it know that Bushy Station has a lot of steps, and that is a big barrier for people with young children, people with mobility challenges, older residents. Many people struggle with that. And actually, I think in this day and age, every station should be accessible. Bushy Station is one of the busiest stations in Hertfordshire, over 1.2 million journeys from that station in the last year that we have figures. We've done lots of work to try to encourage the Department for Transport, and it's disappointing to see that they have decided not to progress this. I've already written to the Minister to ask why and to encourage them to reconsider. There will, of course, be future rounds of funding, and I know that she and Councillor Sharp and other local councils will be working hard to make sure that we do get those improvements that we need at Bushy Station.
Councillor Williams.
Thank you, Chair. I'd just like to ask the Mayor for the latest position in regards to the Watford General Hospital's redevelopment.
Yeah, thank you, Councillor Williams. I had a really useful conversation with the Chief Executive of the West Herts Hospital, Teaching Hospital Trust a few days ago, and I think, you know, there's mixed things to report. First of all, I'm sure many of us welcome the fact that Mount Vernon Cancer Services look to be consolidated at the Watford site. But the big bad news was the National Audit Office report that shows a further delay in when we can expect to see the rebuild of Watford completed. The latest estimated date is 2038. And I think all of us should be prepared to say that's unacceptable across parties. We should be saying to the Labour government, this isn't good enough, that we have many, many other places. If you take, for example, Milton Keynes, it's great that they're getting the investment. They'll be having their hospital completed and reopened in 2031, 7 years ahead of us. So I think we should be really pushing cross-party to say we need that funding, and we need to see Watford General rebuilt far sooner than that to serve our residents and, of course, the people that work there. Yeah.
Thank you. Questions by members of the council. No written questions have been received. Petitions. Council received a petition with the requisite number of signatures and it's been printed in the agenda. Jack Mitchell is with us this evening to present the petition. I will now set out the procedure. Jack, we have up to 5 minutes to present the petition. After this, members will have 15 minutes in total to debate it. So the 15 minutes is in total to debate, not for each person. I will then ask Mayor Taylor to formally respond. He will have up to 3 minutes. Jack, please come forward. You have up to 5 minutes. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. We now move on to members' debate, which is for a maximum of 15 minutes. Does any member wish to speak? Suleiman. Glenn. So on my list are Councillor Bell, Councillor Suleiman, Ian, Councillor Glenn, Councillor Sharp, and Councillor Taylor. Did I miss anyone? Okay. So, who did I miss? Oh, Jeff, okay. 7.
Yeah, just over 2 minutes each.
Okay. So we have 7 members indicating interest to speak. So we'll have about 2 minutes each for each member. Thank you. So I will now invite Councillor Bell.
Thank you, Chair, and thanks, and well done to the petitioner for bringing this here. And as the local member, county member for the last 20 years for West Watford, and obviously a Hollywood member, along with my colleagues, we've certainly going back, have always pushed for the what we used to call Croxley Rail Link, and then it became the Metropolitan Line extension. But of course, you're saying about ending that. Of course, that did end a few years ago, technically about 2018. And I know that as a county councillor, I'm sure the mayor will be able to add to this, that we were going to revisit it, but the county council, Watford and Three Rivers, obviously where the land is, have all worked together since TfL's decision not to pursue the Metropolitan Line extension, and that county council does not have a specific plan at the moment to open the West Watford station, but they are looking into it, famously. And I think it is something we do need to look at. I mean, anything from my point of view and residents I know, as I'm sure you know, that will stop the, help to ease the congestion. And obviously, you talked there about the cost of public transport. That anything that we can do to help that is obviously good. Now, they obviously are looking at, who knows, there may be a tramway, looking at some sort of tram, some other kind of new bus route on, whether it's a tram or bus, some sort of new technology from the junction or even from St Albans to the junction and down to us. That could happen. But anything like that is important. And that's the sort of thing they're looking at the moment. As I say, a feasibility study was done in 2021 to looking at different options, and they are going to look at this again. So the main thing is that your petition is obviously going to prompt that. And as I say, the county does have plans to work together with the borough and obviously TfL, because they own the land of where the route is on. So we do need to talk to them. But, I say well done for bringing this. And I hope that, we are able to, in the end, get a suitable replacement for that bit of land and that old station. Obviously, many people remember years ago when there was the football, and but I think that's enough. But well done anyway, and I hope we can get some solution.
Thank you, Councillor Bell. Councillor Suleiman.
As a Holywell, I'm in favor of this petition. If there is a dedicated budget for the project and it can be delivered without closing any other station, it would be a positive initiative. The council should revisit the plans and work closely with TfL and Hertfordshire County Council to explore how West Watford Station can be reinstated without compromising existing stations, or alternatively consider other transport options such as a tram. Thank you.
Well done. Thank you. Councillor Sturz.
Thank you, Chairman. Yep, I'd like to echo thank you for bringing the petition. I do want to take this opportunity. So I'm the portfolio holder for transport for Watford Borough Council, which is a role that in its own guise doesn't really make a lot of sense, because actually the Transport Authority is county council. But we've made transport such an issue in Watford for the council. We're really trying to prioritise it as a local authority, and there's so many schemes that we're running. But With regards to the MLX, which was just mentioned, we vehemently opposed that. We led a huge campaign against that cancellation. It was a fully funded scheme with surplus and contingency budget. So the cancellation of that was a huge betrayal to West Watford. But we've not been idle since. We've been really working on what to do with that route, working with the county council as a borough council to try and put in place additional plans. As I said, though, we're punching well above our weight on transport in general. We've got our borough bike scheme. We've got a car club locally. We're working on cycling improvements. We run a sustainability forum and a cycle forum. I'd really encourage you to attend. It's really well attended by residents and by stakeholders. It's already been mentioned, we're running a rezone campaign to try and make transport more affordable for our residents. But it's already been mentioned briefly by Councillor Bell, but HCC is preparing a new public offer for that line and that route and potential technology solutions. I confess I don't understand what you just described, the technology solution you just described, so please, I'd love to talk to you afterwards and understand what it is you're looking for. But I think we do have to be realistic. To fund something like a new train system on that route, we'll need backing of government or backing of TfL to really fund that. So we as a borough are looking at what's available within our powers and indeed within Hertfordshire to deliver additional transport for the people of West Watford. That's already happening. I want to make sure people online know that's already happening. That work is already ongoing. And, I pay tribute to the Mayor and to the County Council who've been working on this in the background. It was a huge rug to be pulled from under our feet to have the MLX cancelled at short notice, despite the fact that it was, for the good of all, not just West Watford, but also for London. But we continue to deliver on this, and we in this year, Q1, Q2, HCC will be bringing those plans for consultation. Yeah.
Thank you, Councillor Safri.
So I'm getting confused with all the microphones. I just want to say, as someone who also grew up in Watford, a huge amount of sympathy with what you're asking for here, and I've got, as you mentioned, friends from South Oxley and that side of town. I just wanted to speak on, as my role is the planning portfolio holder, and I think that Croxley rail link would have had huge benefits for our local plan policies, and my colleague Councillor Sharp will probably expound on those even better than I can after me. But in terms of our efforts to bring investment to the town, and especially affordable and social housing, it would be massive. And you pointed out the problems with bus services. Huge problem comes up on the doorstep all the time. So very supportive of this. But the issue you've raised obviously is the cooperation of TfL and the relevant authorities like that. It was TfL that pulled the plug on it. So I very much hope that the people with the power to get round the table are listening to what we're saying here, because I think there are huge benefits to it. But hopefully they're listening, and we'll keep pushing that envelope for you. Thank you.
Thank you. Councillor Sharp.
Thank you, Madam Chairman. I have to say, each time I walk up Wigan Hall Road, it breaks my heart to see that rail bed empty, no rails, and it breaks my heart even more to think that we were expecting that by now it would be 5 or 6 years into its operation as a new important strategic transport link connecting the Metropolitan line to Watford Junction and filling in a missing bit of the infrastructure. It was a terrible decision that it wouldn't go ahead. And as a member of the cabinet, we were in partnership with organisations that got it nearly there. It still is it's a crime that it shouldn't be in operation. I have to say there were reasons why the old Croxley branch line closed, because it really was not providing it was not that much demand, and that was why we were wanting to do something different and better. The hope for the future, I suspect, is not to be trying to open the branch line. If we couldn't get the Croxley rail link over the line, that will certainly not happen. But what does need to happen, and I'm sure the Mayor will expound on this, is that corridor needs to be brought back into use as sustainable transport, because Watford desperately needs more sustainable transport, better public transport, and that link has got to be part of that project.
Thank you, Councillor Sharp. Councillor Tello.
Thank you. I grew up on Hagden Lane, so fully sympathise. And as has been mentioned, I'm a big fan of always looking at rail and upgrading things. I do just want to be clear, there seems to be some conflation between two petitions. The change.org petition and the official one do ask for very different things. The former accuses the council of indecisiveness and calls to push the council to action. I'm assuming that the fact that the petition to council doesn't have that wording and refers to TfL as an acknowledgement that we actually don't have the power to make rail-related decisions. But I just also want to ensure that whilst this is a great idea to improve public transport, there's a dose of realism about what can actually be done in the rail sector. I mean, it took us 3 years of negotiating with Network Rail just to get a licence for a community garden at Bushy Station. We've gone through multiple business plans and all sorts of things, really worked hard with Network Rail and still couldn't get our accessibility funding for an existing station. The cost of a new station in West Watford would be more than the entire budget for Access for All funding that has been given this year. And of course, you need electricity upgrades, you need to work with UKPN, Affinity Water, all of those things, because there will need to be huge upgrades to those utilities to be able to cater for a station. And unfortunately, by the time any of that's done, Watford Borough Council won't actually exist anymore. So whilst I fully support the idea, I just want to ensure that the reporting on this issue, as some of it seems to be very, very optimistic in the press, is just couched in those terms with a little bit of realism as well there.
Thank you. Councillor Dinston.
Yeah, thank you, Chair. I won't repeat everything all that I've said. I came to Watford in 1973 and I couldn't speak a word of English, and maybe some of you might say I should have tried a bit harder at Westfield. There was a language centre there which I attended, and I grew up on Chester Road and walked past that line. The only other thing people haven't mentioned is that it would serve the football ground as well. From Watford Junction, there used to be a drop-off for the fans behind there. All the rest has been covered, and it would be really beneficial and good. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you, everyone. I would now like to invite Mayor Taylor to respond on behalf of the council. You have up to 3 minutes, sir.
Thank you, Chairman, and thank you, Jake, as well, for bringing this petition forward. I know at the start of your speech you mentioned bus services. From my perspective, we do need to see better bus services, but that will only happen when we have a franchise system, and it's good that I know Hertfordshire County Council are working to do that. But on this petition, I know that everyone here wants to see better public transport in Watford. In 2018, the London Mayor of London decided to scrap plans to extend the Metropolitan line. Since then, I've done everything I can to make sure we have a credible plan to bring the Croxley line back into use. The local plan that Councillor Saffrey mentioned, adopted in 2022, includes policies that safeguard the land required for new infrastructure, including this disused rail line through West Watford, ensuring that this land can be used to provide transport infrastructure to support our growing town. Thanks to this council, feasibility work has already been commissioned to examine options for bringing the transport corridor that runs past West Watford Station into use. This work is being carried out with Hertfordshire County Council and is being funded by our Community Infrastructure Levy contribution of £150,000. Whilst a heavy rail solution for the route has not been ruled out, the purpose of the work is to consider a range of options for the route, from guided busways, very lightweight rail, and walking and cycling. The report considers the benefits and challenges of each option and the value for money to local residents and taxpayers. Whilst a final option has not been selected, a guided busway or trackless tram has been shown to represent good balance between meeting the transport needs of residents in West Watford and providing value for money. The future delivery of any scheme arising from the work will be dependent on securing government funding, which a number of people have raised. The ongoing collaborative work between Herts County Council, Watford Borough Council, Three Rivers District Council, and organisations such as TfL and Network Rail ensures the project is well positioned should funding opportunities arise. And so I'll just conclude by saying this must be our approach. We have to do everything we can to develop a viable scheme along the Croxley line and then work together to make this a reality.
Thank you, everyone. I would like to thank Jake for coming to the council and presenting this petition. A written response will be sent to you, and it will also be published on the council website. Thank you so much for coming, and feel free to stay if you want to. Urgent business. I would like to hand over to Nolan for any urgent business.
Thank you very much. We really just wanted to say thank you to Isabel, who is leaving us. This is her last full council meeting. She's leaving us at the end of the week off to pastures new. So we just really wanted to say thank you for all your support and your help. And give you some flowers.
Thank you. Okay. Reports of portfolio holder for property resources and customer services. A report of the monitoring officer has been circulated. Please, can I call on my Peter Teller to move the report? You have up to 7 minutes.
Thank you, Chairman. I won't take 7 minutes. First of all, I just want to pay tribute to Councillor Rodriguez for the work that he did as portfolio holder. This is one of the portfolios that Councillor Watkin will know is very onerous. It covers a heck of a lot of different council functions, really important ones like ICT, HR, elections, property, which of course generates more income for the council than council tax. And Councillor Rodriguez was an incredibly diligent, intelligent, hard-working member of the cabinet. So I would like to thank him for his contribution, wish him the very, very best. I know that he has had health challenges, which he is being supported through. And so I'm sure I'll speak on behalf of all of us. I say thank you to Kennedy for the work that he did for the council in the cabinet. And of course, I'm delighted that Councillor Hill will be joining the cabinet. She's been a fantastic addition in the few months that she's already been part of the team. I know that her and I had a very long meeting this afternoon looking at our property portfolio holder. I'm sure that she will do a great job, and congratulations to her on becoming part of the cabinet and taking over this portfolio.
Can I call on Councillor Patterson to second this, please?
Thank you, Favour. I don't really have much to add to what Mayor Taylor said, other than to thank Kennedy personally. I learnt a great deal from him as a cabinet member, and he worked with integrity, with professionalism, and worked really hard on this portfolio. And again, to echo Peter's comments on welcoming Penn to the cabinet, she's made a great start already and is a really outstanding colleague to have. So thank you.
Thank you. Do any other member wish to speak on this? Councillor Bell.
Thank you, Chair. And yeah, just also send my and our group's best wishes to Councillor Rodriguez, and also to welcome Councillor Hill. I thought she seemed to have been on the cabinet already for a while anyway. And and also with all her different hats on, and I think she's a county councillor and other things she's done, and also she was a very good chair of the one we did last year. I can't remember a year ago. I never had so many scrutiny meetings when she chaired them so well. So I'll pay tribute to her, and well done.
Thank you. Can I invite Mayor Teller to sum up, please?
Nothing really to add. Thank you to Councillor Bell for his comments, and he's right. Councillor Hill has many hats, but she wears them all very well. So thank you.
Thank you. Does Council know the recommendation as set out on page 10 of the agenda pack? All those in favour, please show. All those against? Any abstentions? The recommendations are carried. Watford Clarendon Road Business Improvement District proposal. A report of the monitoring officer has been circulated. Please, can I ask Mayor Taylor to move the report? You have up to 7 minutes.
Thank you, Chairman. So the Watford Town Centre bid, I just want to give a little bit of context. I know that not all of us were here in 2015 when it was first established, but it's undoubtedly proved to be a success. Vacancy rates in our town centre are half the average across the country. Our dynamic bid team worked really closely with businesses in the town centre, the council, the police, and many others. In October last year, there was an overwhelming vote in favour of the bid continuing for a third term. The result was 92% of businesses who took part voted yes. There was a very high turnout. If you look at the rateable value, it was 95%. So it was a truly phenomenal result for them. So we are now looking at, should there be a bid for Clarendon Road? The area would run from Watford Junction right up to Beach and Grove. It would include the O'Neill's Pub, Watford Junction Station, and the businesses in Aveco House. So why are we looking to do this? First of all, to enhance Clarendon Road, to ensure it's a first-class safe and connected business environment. It would enable us to promote Clarendon Road as a premier business location, and it would support business growth, sustainability and collaboration. The number of properties or hereditaments liable for the levy would be 113, compared to the 497 in the town centre. But of course, there'd be some big businesses there, and they would pay 2% of the rateable value. Only properties with hereditaments of a rateable value of £12,000 or more will be eligible to pay the levy, and the maximum would be £50,000 a year. Organisations that are subject to charitable relief on their business rates would see the levy reduced to 0.25%. A collection rate of 95%, which we assume would collect, would generate £377,000 per annum. The proposal is to hold this ballot from the 20th of February to the 19th of March. We need to have 50% of votes from businesses in favour and 50% of the rateable value. And the count will take place on the 20th of March by our busy elections team. I know they're looking forward to it. All I would say is the town centre bid has been a success. We want to see that success replicated along Clarendon Road. We've seen the success of the ballot at the end of last year. With local government reorganisation happening, I think it's really important that we secure the financial viability, the long-term future of our bid. And so I hope that we can unanimously support this motion. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Can I call on Councillor Hill to second the report?
Absolutely. And I just want to echo what Mayor Taylor has said. I do think it'd be a welcome addition to further support investments in hospitality and shopping areas. We all know these enhance our local communities and are a vital part of them. And in particular, because this area is so close to the station, it's often one part of town that some of our people visiting experience only that. So I think it's really important that they have the best possible experience of Watford if they come that way.
Do any other members wish to speak on this? Okay. Councillor Suleiman.
My suggestion is, that if you could do something towards this side as well, the coming towards the council or the library side. So I appreciate, that whatever the bid is doing towards the station side, the Clarendon Road, but when we are coming towards the library side, it becoming dark there. So if you could do something on this side as well, under the bid. Because I had a meeting with the bid staff member, and there is a program which he want to initiate towards this side. So thank you.
Councillor Bell.
Thank you, Chair. Yes, certainly we're in favour of this. Obviously, anything to encourage, especially Clarendon Road, which is a key part of our employment area. All those businesses down Clarendon Road. You mentioned the pub at the far end of the flag, but all the way down Clarendon Road into the town, it's important that it should take that into account. And I think, the offices and etc. there. So I think that's important. The more we can get them part of this is important, and to working together. Yeah. Thank you.
Councillor Sharp.
Thank you, Madam Chairman. Yes, it seems a rather improbable thought that businesses will be signing up to pay extra rates. But I think anybody who's seen exactly what's been achieved by the Watford Town Centre bid over the last decade will realise exactly what such an organisation can do for an area. And I think specifically we have town centres have the problem that it's all very well the local authority investing in improving the public realm, but then after a while that dissipates and things can suddenly start to look run down again. Well, the town centre bid has really brought massive investment into the town, and we can see the difference. And because it is controlled by them rather than something that is determined by the council, it is actually nimble enough and understands business needs enough to be, to make a real difference. And the idea that we can actually extend this to Clarendon Road as our premier office district, given the challenges that that element of the business sector faces, really is a potential a boon or potential boon to that area and to the town as a whole. And as has been rightly said, given our move towards a unitary authority, it's important that we have a strong kind of civic life beyond Watford Borough Council, an organisational heft, as it were, to keep the council's to keep the town's local economy thriving. So I do hope, I'm glad that this is going ahead. I do hope it will follow in the very successful footsteps of the town centre bid, both in terms of getting a positive vote and in terms of building on the improvements that have happened in Clarendon Road in recent years to make sure it enjoys a thriving future over the next years and decades.
Councillor Stusby.
Councillor Sharp said everything I was going to say.
Thank you. Would you like to sum up?
Yeah, thank you, and thank you for those people that contributed. Just on Councillor Sullivan's point around the subway, there is work planned between Watford Council working in partnership with the town centre bid to make improvements there. And one of the things that has been a real strength is that relationship between the council and the bid. I sit on the bid board as an observer, and we have 2 members on there as well. There has been informal consultation to look at other parts that could potentially be in the bid. And so it is important, of course, we speak to businesses first and decide out, is this something you're interested in? And there has been fairly positive response from the businesses in Clarendon Road, but in other parts of the town, there's been less enthusiasm. So that's why we're focused on Clarendon Road at the moment. The final thing I would just like to pay tribute to the bid team, that it's running town centres is not straightforward. We all know that nationally there's big challenges facing the high street, and come COVID, whatever it's been, they have done a phenomenal job. So Cora and the team deserve a big vote of thanks, I think, from all of us because of the work that they do.
Thank you. Does Council agree the 7 recommendations set out on page 15? All those in favour, please show. Thank you. All those against? Against? Any abstentions? Any abstentions? The recommendations are carried. Interim polling districts and polling place review of polling stations. A report of the Electoral Services Manager has been circulated. We invite Councillor Hill to move the recommendations.
Thank you, Chair. In October 2025, this council agreed to a public consultation on a review of polling districts in Holywell, Oxley, and the wider West Watford County Division. This was an interim review which has now been completed. Over 3,500 households were contacted, with a range of responses being received. It was very heartening to see that overall residents had very positive recent voting experiences. And for most residents, the most important things for their polling stations were convenience, accessibility, and short travel distances. And overall, their feedback has shaped the recommendations that are being put before this council tonight. Changes that were originally proposed have been amended as well in response to comments. I note that residents in Kelmscott Crescent, which is in polling district KA, expressed concerns of being moved to Chesbrook from Holywell Primary School due to distance. So that has now been amended, that Chesbrook has been excluded from that boundary change. The Mayfield Village venue also had concerns raised about parking, and that was discussed with the venue. And I'm now pleased to say they will have dedicated parking in there for polling days. I'm also very grateful to ward councillors who contributed on this matter. I note that unfortunately the suggestions for KA in particular that were discussed with officers were not possible to implement due to lack of securing agreements from the venues. And overall, so just hopefully everyone's read the report, but the final recommendations are to retain the current KA polling district boundary, adjust the KB boundary, moving some electors to the West Watford Free Church, merging KD with part of KB, removing the green building from use, and the creation of a new KE polling district with electors voting at Mayfield Village Hall under special arrangements for 2026. And I also note in the report that there will be a good communications plan with residents ahead of the local elections in May. Thank you.
Thank you. Can I call on Councillor Clark to second?
I'll second it. Can I please retain my right to speak until the end if anyone else wants to go first?
Thank you. Any amendments to this? Okay. Do any other member wish to speak? Up to 5 minutes. Councillor Bell?
Yeah, thank you, Chair. And can I thank Officer Sam, who's here, for listening to various, not objections, but comments that I had about this. And obviously taking on board what residents, especially obviously in Kelmscott Avenue and other parts of, and obviously in Hampton Lane as well, concerned that they would lose their, the fact that they could vote at Chesbrook, and rather than having to go all the way through to Hollywood School. So I think she's listened to that, and that's been helped. Our big issue in Hollywood, not to go on too long about it, is that there isn't really anywhere else in the KA part to vote. So people right the way down Whippendale Road, now where you've got the large Ascot Tower and all the developments, they still all have to come and vote at Chesbrook. So I know that the officer did try to see if they could get Ascot Road School. I know we're not using schools anymore, and the Cortland development, we couldn't get them. So that will hopefully be looked at in the future. But I think the key thing here is publicity, to make sure that all those who are changing where they're going to vote, that they get that publicity, as well as obviously us trying to encourage postal votes. But we get that publicity out to people, and obviously it's monitored closely at the election in this May. And we just look for the future. I know there were people obviously also concerned about using Mayfields. I know one resident in Mayfield said that, look, everybody here's got postal vote, they're not going to use it. But anyway, we'll see how that goes. That needs to be monitored. But overall, I accept what you've done. I'm sure we'll watch, and officers will be careful and see what happens in May. Thank you.
Councillor Taylor, do you want to speak?
Thank you. Yes, I don't have a huge amount more to say. I spoke on this last time we had full council and proposed to do the review. I would like to just commend officers for the work on this. I know there's been considerable consideration given to resident views, particularly around things like parking at Mayfields. So very big thank you to the team for taking that into account and agreeing to provide additional services to ensure things run smoothly on the day. I know from speaking to residents at Mayfields that this is a really good thing for some of them who struggle to travel longer distances, particularly it is very much a retirement village, so access is important to them, and I think we can all agree that access to democracy is a fundamental value that we all agree with. So a big thank you to the team who have done that, and thank you to Councillor Bell for pointing to me with the mention of Hagton Lane. I've not lived there for many years, but as you know, my parents still live there, so I'm happy to be a proxy for them. But no, highly commend this and agree absolutely on publicity and communications, which I believe are very much going to be a big priority for the team.
Would you like to sum up, Councillor Hill?
Just two short comments, just to echo my thanks to officers, and obviously communication plans will be put in place. I also want to emphasise this is an interim review, so there are other statutory reviews which will happen, which also look more widely at polling stations and boundaries. So just emphasise that does happen regularly.
Thank you. Does Council agree the 4 recommendations set out on page 62 of the agenda pack? All those in favour, please show. Thank you. All those against? Any abstentions? Thank you. The recommendations are carried. Appointments of Section 151 officer. A report of the Chief Executive has been circulated. I'm inviting Mayor Taylor to introduce the report and move the recommendations. You have up to 7 minutes.
Thank you, Chairman. And of course, I'd like to echo the comments made by the Chief Executive to first of all thank Isabel for the service over the last few months in the role as Section 151 officer. Local government reform, which we talk about often, it means that greater collaboration between local councils has never made more sense. And so following discussions with Dacorum Borough Council, it's proposed that Nigel Howcutt, the existing Section 151 officer at Dacorum, is appointed as a Section 151 officer and Chief Finance Officer to Watford Council from the 1st of February. I would just like to draw colleagues' attention to paragraph 4.5 in the reports. It says, in parallel to this extensive market engagement, Nigel has been subject to a robust evaluation process. It's believed that he'll provide robust support, strategic governance and compliance oversight, ensuring that the council remains safe, legal and fully aligned with their statutory duties, which of course is very important. So I think this makes a lot of sense to be working with Dacorum, and I would encourage colleagues to vote for the motion.
Thank you. Can I invite Councillor Begin to second report?
Yes, thank you. And I'd like to reserve my right to speak.
Thank you. Do any other member wish to speak? Councillor Watkin.
Thank you very much, Madam Chairman. Turning the clock back a few years, Councillor Taylor, Mayor Taylor referred to my position as in his cabinet, and one of the roles I was proud to hold was looking to have shared services and to really share the load across our local neighbouring authorities. And we worked hard over quite a few years to achieve this. And decorum was always a bit of a challenge. And so I'm delighted now with the Lib Dem administration and decorum that we've now actually see ourselves working closely with them. And I'm delighted to see that the South West Hertfordshire is coming together as a sort of as a combined authority, which is good preparation for what's coming down the stream. So thank you very much.
Councillor Begum, would you like to speak?
Yep, just a few final words. So first of all, Isabel, you'll be missed, and thank you so much for everything that you've done, holding me to account and holding each other to account for all the work that we've been doing since I came to join as finance portfolio holder since June. So just a huge thank you and welcome, Nigel. Totally excited to be working with you. I think we'll have our first meeting in the diary next week, but absolutely excited to be working with you, and thank you. That's it, Chair. Thank you.
Thank you. Would you like to sum up?
I have nothing further to add. I'm sure that my meeting with Nigel is probably in the diary for next week, but I'm looking forward to that. It's always good to talk to a finance officer. So welcome and thank you again, Isabel.
Thank you. Does the council agree with the recommendations? Sorry, Nigel.
Thank you, Chair. Yeah, just to add again, I was going to say in a few minutes, but thanks to Isabel for her the work she's done, and especially her reports. Much clearer, actually, than a lot of the reports we've had in the past, certainly when I've been on budget scrutiny and everything. So it's really good, and that's made a big difference to us. So well done. And I hope that I don't know enough about decorum, as Councillor Watkins has been talking about them. I think they're a minority administration, aren't they? But we'll see how that goes. But anyway, I welcome Nigel here, another Nigel, and I'm sure he'll be very effective. Thank you.
Thank you. Does the council agree with the recommendations as printed on page 81? All those in favour, please show. Thank you. All those against? Any abstentions? Thank you. The recommendations are carried. And behold your new section 15 officer, Nigel. Welcome to council. Watford Borough Council Remuneration Scheme 2026-28. A report of the Democratic Services Lead has been circulated. I would like to thank the panel for their work. I've noted that they've not made any substantial changes. I'm inviting Councillor Patterson to move the report. You have up to 7 minutes.
Thank you, Chair. I want to obviously also thank the independent remuneration panel. It's a job that's incredibly important. And I want to say also that members of this council, we take very seriously our responsibility when it comes to remuneration. It's right that this is reviewed independently and transparently, and that we strike the right balance between enabling councillors to do their jobs effectively, but whilst also protecting public finances. I attended the independent members' remuneration panel on behalf of our group and made submissions directly to the panel. Our message was clear. Allowances must be sufficient to cover genuine costs incurred in carrying out council duties, but they must also represent good value for money for residents. A key change I want to highlight this evening, and it is only a small one, is the approach to communications allowance. The panel recognised quite rightly The way we communicate has changed significantly. Most of us now have mobile phones and broadband as part of everyday packages that we use for both personal, professional and council business. For the majority of members, there is no longer an additional cost associated with using them for services for council purposes. As a result, the communications allowance will now only be paid where a councillor can demonstrate that there's a genuine additional cost to them personally. Any such payment will be subject to agreement by the monitoring officer in consultation with that councillor. This ensures the allowance is used appropriately, transparently and only when it's genuinely needed. I believe this is a sensible and welcome move. It reflects modern working practices, ensures fairness between members and most importantly demonstrates our commitment to responsible use of public funds. For those who do incur real additional costs, there remains a clear and fair mechanism to ensure we are not out of pocket. Overall, this strikes the right balance and I'm pleased to support the recommendations in this report this evening. Thank you.
Thank you. I would like to invite Councillor Hill to second the report.
Thank you. I second it and reserve my right to speak.
Thank you. Do other members, any other amendments on the report? Do any members wish to speak? Councillor Bell.
Thank you, Chair. And I'd like to thank the 4 independent members for their work on this, and obviously Sandra for all the admin work she's done on it and lots of other behind the scenes work. And the Labour group, as I've said there, thinks that we should just keep the figures as they are, but obviously go along with whatever the independent management and whatever the local government committee comes forward. I don't think we've had anything yet, have we? What it's going to be, whether it's going to be 2 or 3%, I don't know, but we think we should stick with that. The basic allowance should continue to be linked, as I say, to the local government pay settlement and increase accordingly as it has since April 2019. The mayor's salary should stay at the present rate, especially considering there's a chief executive in a mayoral office, obviously, and a paid political advisor. The Labour group also said that the dependents' carers allowance for childcare and adult care should be kept in line with any recommendations from local government pay settlements, and looking, of course, across at our comparator authorities. And finally, we argue that the present arrangements linking the basic allowance remuneration and SRAs with the local government settlement is sufficient to get to the 2027-28, and obviously the end of Watford Council and after LGR. I think that's really it, really. I agree with basically what Councillor Patterson says in her piece as well, and we agree with this. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you. Councillor Hill, would you like to? Thank you. Councillor Patterson, would you like to sum up?
I have nothing else to add. Thank you.
Thank you. Does the council agree to the recommendations on page 85 in the reports? All those in favour, please show. Thank you. All those against? Any abstentions? Thank you. The recommendation is carried. Annual review of fees and charges. A report of the Chief Finance Officer has been presented in Cabinet on 19th of January and circulated with this agenda. Can I invite Councillor Begum to move the report? You have up to 7 minutes.
Thank you, Chair. Hopefully it won't take the 7 minutes. So this report sets out the draft charging policy for years 2026 to 27 and the proposed changes to the council schedule of fees and charges. Service managers review fees and charges at least annually, and in undertaking this review have taken into account that CPI, which is Consumer Price Index, was 3.5% in April 2025. It is proposed to adopt the new fees and charges for the majority of services from 1st of February 2026, with some exceptions as set out in the body of the report, including annual parking permits which are issued in June, garden waste collection service subscriptions which run from 1st September 2026. Delegations for leisure service fees and licence fees for market traders are set out in the report, whilst it is also noted that some fees are set by central government in legislation, such as planning fees. Fees in relation to hackney carriage and private hire vehicle licensing fall within the remit of the licensing committee and were reviewed in January. Finer details and proposed charges are included in the pack, and I'd like to propose the recommendations on page 129 of this report.
Thank you. Can I invite Councillor Williams to second the report, please?
Thank you very much, Chairman. I'd just like to second this report and reserve my right to speak. Thank you.
Thank you. Are there any amendments to this? Do any members wish to speak? Okay, Councillor Williams.
Thank you very much, Chair. I was going to actually, as highlighted last week at Cabinet by Councillor Khan, who's unfortunately not here today, and he spoke as Chairman of the Finance Scrutiny Committee. The fundamental basis for fees and charges is their affordability and fairness, the quality of services, benchmarking with other authorities, the total cost of the services to the council, and clear communications explaining the charges to residents and to businesses. With the appropriate responses from officers and then Cabinet, there were no fundamental objectives raised by the Finance Scrutiny Committee, as Councillor Khan reported. I therefore do second this recommendations as in the agenda and can assure Council that these principles are adhered to by Cabinet members and the Cabinet and the Liberal Democratic administration. Thank you.
Thank you. Councillor Begum, would you like to sum up?
Just thank you to Councillor Williams and Councillor Asif, who's not here today, for their continued support and feedback on finance scrutiny as well. So nothing else outside of that. Thank you.
Thank you. Does Council agree to the recommendations on page 129? All those in favour, please show. Thank you. All those against? Any abstentions? Thank you. The recommendation is carried. Thank you. So we have on the remaining agenda items, the budget and the motions. And I will propose that we have a 5 minutes comfort break and we'll come back and we'll deal with it. Thank you.
Is that what you watched?
I must leave here no later than 10.
No later than 10?
Yes. No later than
we
10.
do it earlier? Liam needs to get home to stop his wife watching binge watching TV.
Are you serious?
I'm not.
We all agreed.
Members, I think we can begin to come back now. Should we start coming back, please? We are well behaved. We are well behaved in Watford. Can we begin to come back to start, please? Yeah. Thank you. I think somebody went that way. So we're now on item 14, which is Budget and Council Tax Resolution 2026-27. A report of the Chief Finance Officer has been circulated with the agenda, including the report to Cabinet on 19 January and the minutes of Finance Scrutiny Committee, Licensing Committee, Cabinet and Audit Committee. An updated agenda pack was also circulated today with all the required documents. I'll ask the Monetary Officer to explain the procedure for dealing with them.
Thank you, Chairman. So the Mayor, as proposed with the budget, will be allowed to speak for up to 20 minutes. Councillor Bell, as leader of the Labour Group, has up to 10 minutes to speak, and I understand there is no amendment. Other than the Mayor, who has the right to sum up, councillors will only be able to speak once during the debate for up to 5 minutes. I'd remind members that it is now a legal requirement to have a named vote on this item. So when we get to the end of the debate, we'll read out names in turn to record that. Thank you.
Thank you. I will now invite my Mayor to move the report. Like you said, you have up to 20 minutes.
Thank you very much, Chairman. I don't know why you all chuckled when she said, Liam said I had up to 20 minutes. Sorry, we had a comfort break before this. So I'm delighted to present a budget to you this evening that delivers investment in frontline services, ensures value for money for residents and supports the local economy. Before I begin going through some of the detail of this budget, I want to take a moment to thank all members and officers for their work over many months to ensure that we have a that we are well prepared and we continue to protect frontline services. I'd like to thank the Section 151 officer in particular for her dedication and hard work before she leaves us for pastures new. This budget is presented against a backdrop of continued challenges facing our national economy, as well as the cost of living crisis, which continues to impact so many families locally. It also comes at a unique and significant moment for local government, as we continue to work diligently on local government reorganisation and what that will mean for the future of our town. Local government reorganisation is taking place at a time when councils are already under significant pressure, and as we remain focused on delivering high quality services for our residents. The financial pressures which local councils face are great. However, I'm confident that the decisions we have made for this next year are the right ones and will ensure that residents continue to receive high quality services here in Watford. Due to the sensible budget decisions we have taken over many years, we do not need to force through cuts to frontline services. This Liberal Democrat-run council has for many years practised good financial management, delivering excellent services and facilities for our residents. Good examples of this are the recently reopened Watford Coliseum and the work currently taking place in our local leisure centres and our parks. Maintaining these high standards has been hard against the backdrop of heavy cuts over the past decade. Local councils have had to respond to growing demand on our services, whilst at the same time seeing our grant funding from central government cut. With many households in a difficult financial situation, we can expect an increase in demand for many of our services. To deal with this reality, we need to make sure that we deliver good value for money in everything that we do. And this is set out in our budget report here tonight. For this year's budget until 28-29, we have managed to find £6 million in efficiency savings to ensure that we can continue to focus on delivering what is important for our residents. When preparing for the budget before you, I've been guided by two clear principles. First, we must protect high quality frontline services and continue to support those most in need. And second, we must continue to invest in programmes that ensure Watford remains a thriving, vibrant and successful town, in line with my manifesto commitments. I know how important our services are to residents, and this budget sets out clearly how we protect those services whilst continuing to improve our town. I'm confident that this is an ambitious budget, but also achievable and balanced. This administration is determined to make a positive difference to residents' lives during the ongoing cost of living crisis, whilst continuing to protect frontline services. We have a strong record of delivering high quality services to budget, achieving efficiency savings and generating additional income in order to provide excellent public services. Therefore, I'm pleased to announce that we will be freezing our share of council tax at 25-26 levels. This will help residents across the town struggling to pay their bills and represents a real terms cut in Watford Council's share of council tax. Alongside this, we will continue to support those in most need in our community with our generous council tax support scheme, which remains unchanged to ensure those who need support can access it. In both 2018 and 22, I made a manifesto commitment to not increase council tax by more than the rate of inflation. I've kept this promise every year. By freezing Watford's share of council tax this year, this council is doing what it can to help every household in the town with the cost of living challenges we face. As I mentioned earlier, Watford is a town that many families are proud to call home and was recently ranked second in the Vitality Index. It's important that we continue to invest in our open spaces, parks, parades and facilities, ensuring that we remain a leading local authority that delivers for its residents. In this budget, this is a key priority. I'm delighted to announce that we'll continue to fund our parade improvement programme. Following on from upgrades of St Albans Road and Whippendale Road, we've allocated £100,000 to upgrade Queen's Road and Vicarage Road parades. This is key to ensuring that our parades continue to flourish with a wide variety of independent businesses, whilst also improving accessibility. Alongside this, we'll continue to fund improvements to our parks and open spaces to ensure that they are places which everyone can enjoy. Improvements that are planned include planting more trees, installing water fountains, making our playgrounds more accessible, better paths, and a new cricket pitch on King George V playing fields. It's important that Watford remains a clean and tidy town. Fly tipping and littering are issues which all councils face and can blight neighbourhoods. I'm pleased to announce that we're providing an extra £95,000 for our environmental protection team to ensure that they can continue to tackle these incidents. This team will be expanded and will also have additional litter picking taking place on high-speed roads. Watford is a thriving town with a strong and resilient local economy, and this budget reflects our continued commitment to invest in its future. As part of our ambitious plans for the Town Hall Quarter, we have allocated the funding needed to deliver a new innovation hub. This dedicated space will support local and regional businesses, helping to unlock economic growth and attract further investment into Watford. It will create new jobs, open up opportunities for local residents, and strengthen Watford's position as a hub of enterprise, creativity, and innovation. Once complete, the Innovation Hub will sit alongside the wider Town Hall Quarter development, complementing the renewed Town Hall and the new Museum of Watford, which will showcase our town's history and heritage in a modern, engaging space for visitors of all ages. Together, these projects will help transform the Town Hall Quarter into a vibrant destination at the heart of our town. Finally, Watford is a unique town with a strong identity and an ambitious future. That is why we have allocated funding towards local government reorganisation. Watford must be fully prepared for the challenges and opportunities ahead. We will continue to lead on local government reorganisation, a complex and demanding process that will require significant time, expertise and resources from councils, including our own. This investment ensures we can shape the right unitary authority for our residents, one that protects Watford's voice, delivers high quality services and ensure that our town continues to go from strength to strength. So in conclusion, despite the financial challenges and uncertainty across local government, especially with local government reform, Watford Council continues to stand as a model of success. We are keeping to my manifesto commitments, staying true to Watford's long-standing traditions of excellent public services, and ensured that our town is well placed for the future once local government reorganisation is concluded. This budget provides investment in our key services and more money to tackle fly tipping and littering. It provides funding to support our local economy with a new innovation hub right here in the Town Hall. And it helps every family by freezing Watford's share of council tax. I hope that you will back this balanced and ambitious budget that will deliver major improvements and investment right across our town. Thank you.
Councillor Begum, I understand you have seconding. You have up to 5 minutes.
Yes, I'd like to support him second, but also reserve my right to speak, if that's okay.
Thank you. I'll now invite Councillor Bell.
Yeah, thank you, Chair, and thank you, Mayor, for your presentation. And we do recognise efficiencies that have been carried out over the last few years leading up to this year, and it's obviously a very difficult year nationally as well as locally, and take into account obviously LGR, and a lot of work's been carried out by obviously officers on LGR, and I pay tribute to the Chief Executive to all the work she's done on that. That's very important coming up, and obviously we do want to be in a good position coming up to LGR. We also recognise a key element for Watford Council this year has been the decision by the Labour government to introduce the fair funding review and to bring, laughs there, and to bring stability in that funding to councils by having a 3-year settlement, which obviously very often, so much under the Conservatives, you didn't have that stability, you didn't get a 3-year settlement. So it's getting that. And despite what we obviously will argue over at the county council budget in 3 weeks' time, clearly most of the districts in the county and many other districts have done relatively well out of the new criteria, the deprivation criteria. And we know that obviously Stevenage, but even, believe it or not, St Albans, as the leader of the county council, he did raise his eyebrows even for St Albans getting that. But we are pleased, and I think the key thing is here for us in Watford, and getting that extra allocation of 6.7 million over the next 3 years is welcome news. And obviously the homelessness, rough sleeping and domestic abuse safe accommodation grant, 1.36 million. I was a bit surprised, therefore, that the council's website statement on the budget and the press release didn't mention the fair funding details, and I wondered why. So there was no mention of the 1.2 million 26-27, the 1.91 million 27-28, and then obviously in the third year, the 3.2 million in 28-29. And obviously we recognise the council receives its income from various sources to fund revenue, as it says in the report, to provide the key services for our residents. And the fair funding changes are now included in the MTFS, medium-term financial strategy, and it's useful to see these changes clearly shown in Table 3, paragraph 217 on page 13. And we note in particular in the minutes of the finance scrutiny meeting on the 14th of January, as Councillor Williams commented on, and obviously the Mayor, chaired by my colleague Asif Khan, noted the various options within the fair funding review had been considered and amended as growth items, and these were drawn to our attention by the Chief Finance Officer. So freezing the council tax is in there, 26-27, at 25-26 levels. And obviously we do support that this year, especially with this extra funding from the Labour government over the 6 years. We think that's very important. We think the residents do need a break with the cost of living issues nationally. So as I say, we support that. And obviously the points that the Mayor made about expanding environmental protection team to address fly tipping, as we mentioned earlier, dog fouling, littering, £75,000 in 26-27, and additional litter picking of high-speed roads, I think it said 20,000, is it in 26-27, it's got down there. So that's all good, and if that also comes from the fair funding or part of it, then obviously we agree with that. And the other point I think you mentioned, that's mentioned there, I'm losing the space here. Yeah, obviously the fair funding contributed in that, the MRP changes, and obviously the pension fund saving over 3 years. So obviously we agree with that, and that's why we shall be supporting the budget tonight. So looking at the budget overall with government funding, we support those proposals. We also recognise that is a calculated risk in that money's gone. Obviously we won't, if we freeze it this year, that's not going to be there. So it's going to put pressure on next year. And almost certainly there may have to be a rise next year, but we'll look at it. But we understand residents this year could do with a break, so we accept that. But it will put pressure next year. Obviously, there's a tough situation, measures the government have had to take, the welcome recent interest rate cuts. We all hope, I'm sure, that the next year to 18 months will see residents' economic situation improve. And obviously, we welcome the significant and positive announcement by the government today to cap ground rent for leaseholders at £250 a year as part of the government's plans to introduce major changes to home ownership. Now, this is added to the government's earlier renters' rights bill last year, also to help ease over time the burden that many other residents across the country and in Watford presently face on renting. And obviously there'll be more on leasehold and renters' rights in the next year or two. But this, along with the £150 fuel rebate, will help the cost of living issues for Watford residents, and although we know things are still very tough. And we are welcoming the package today, obviously on pubs, but there'll be more to announce on that. and we're looking forward to further changes to business rates in the future. We also coming back to the council, the temporary accommodation reserve of 150,000, recognising the important work of our housing team, very good work, have done to highlight and help our vulnerable residents in temporary accommodation. And we have had regular briefings to the budget scrutiny and from the officers, and they've been very good, and we obviously know there's a big issue with temporary housing. I well remember speaking at budget scrutiny committees, cabinets and councils over the years asking for more resources. It didn't happen straight away, but it finally has done, but to put into our temporary accommodation thinking of York House to name but one, but at least the investment was finally made. Looking across at Councillor Johnson, I know he always argued for better investment and, affordable homes, and, pay tribute to what he's done over the years. But clearly the housing crisis and how it's affected our residents and the knock-on effect from nearby London, families should always have been on our radar here. And there have been many different portfolio holders over the last 24 years, with some taking less than the required interest, but I don't include in Councillor Johnson, as I said. But I will pay due tribute to Councillor Pattinson, who does and has taken on the right and serious approach to temporary housing in the borough and housing generally. So thank you for that. We welcome the extra provision to expand the council's environmental protection team, as the Mayor said earlier, to address the fly tipping, dog fouling, littering, antisocial behaviour, etc. And again, ironic though, I will just say that when we've often proposed in our budget amendments over the years on the Labour group to employ, say, an extra street sweeper, I think it was in Vicarage Ward, for example, and looking at this ward and obviously spending in St Albans Road, Whippendale Road, we were often criticised then, but then it was done. So fine, all right, you've done it now. That was something after 24 years. And I know, again, looking at the, you're talking about upgrades for Vicarage Road Precinct and the Hornets Gyratory in the next financial year. That's great. I mean, that's something we've often talked about. I know Councillor Shah, Councillor Dinser's talked about that and campaigned on it for many years. But we're pleased it's happening now. And, 24 years, you've got that. But we will look to see about details of those new neighbourhood joint ventures as time goes on. And, we'll see whether that's worth it and what's happening on that. But overall, we accept your budget today, especially with that extra funding from the government, meaning that it's going to make it easier for the council tax to be frozen, and the other measures in here, which obviously that's helping as well. So tonight we will support your, I don't know if it's a first, but we will certainly be for your budget tonight. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you. Thank you. So we'll now debate the motion, even though the two groups seem to agree already. So that means we're going to be faster then, and people don't need to repeat what others have said. So would other people wish to speak on this? Yeah, Councillor Safri. Williams. Wait.
Just make sure I got them
Okay. So I've got Councillor Safri, Councillor Stosbury, and Councillor Robertson. I knew Councillor. Okay. Thank you. Councillor Williams. How did I miss you? Okay, Councillor Safri.
Thank you, Chair. I'll heed your instructions for brevity, so I'll be quick. But all I was saying, I made this point at Cabinet when we recommended this budget, that there have been times when we've had to make tough and much less palatable decisions on the budget than this. And the fact that we can, a lot of other councils who are receiving extra money from the Fair Funding Review will be using it to plug holes and fight fires. And we're actually using it to do things that will really benefit our residents at a time when they really need it and address their priorities. So I just would want to pay tribute to past administrations for very careful financial stewardship that puts us in a position to put forward such a positive budget today. Thank you.
Thank you. Councillor Stosbury.
Use my mic, so I got that credit. That was good.
You were sitting there.
I just want to say, building exactly what Councillor Savory said, we're in this position to make good decisions because of good financial management. We're going to invest in our rivers and our wetlands. We're going to continue to invest in our parks and our open spaces, invest in the sustainability of the town. It would be remiss of me not to redouble on the point that, while we're in a position where we're receiving additional funds, of course, county is receiving a significant cut. So actually the overall situation for Watford residents is not as glossy as it may appear from just the Watford settlement, but we're very, very happy with the changes for the 3-year settlement for Watford, and because of that sound financial strategy, we are going to continue to deliver really meaningful change for our town. So well done, and thank you for a good budget.
Thank you. Councillor Williams.
Thank you very much, Madam Chair. I know the Watford Observer gave the budget the headline of being balanced and ambitious, but I think I'd call it a wondrous budget, with a freezing council tax, providing money to a number of projects and ensuring revenues reserves are at appropriate levels. Whilst Labour refer to the so-called fair funding formula, which is often referred by others as the unfair funding formula, and whilst it is positive for Watford Borough Council's funding, it's unfair to Watford as a whole, as County Council finds itself £41 million short in its funding, and Watford, in effect, will be taking a 10th share of the brunt here. So the Labour government has adopted the austerity mantra of the previous government: what one hand giveth, the other's hand taketh away. The so-called fair funding formula from Labour is unfair for Watford. What is fair, and Nigel just mentioned this briefly in this year's budget, was the triennial review of Hertfordshire's pension scheme, bringing in 1.5 million into Watford's budget this year and the following 2 years. Well done to the Pensions Committee at Herts County Council here and its chairman, but I know he doesn't like to crow about this matter, unlike the Labour MP and his unfair funding formula. As mentioned already, it's great to be able to expand services in my portfolio, increasing resources to tackle litter picking on high-speed roads and to end the litter confetti after Herts County Council grass cut the area, an extra team member in the environmental crime team to address fly tipping, dog fouling, littering and other issues impacting residents. The third item, we haven't really spoken about it much this evening, is creating, establishing and maintaining an additional grass cricket wicket and pitch at King George V's playing field. Perhaps one day we'll have a Watford England international player to beat the Aussies. and perhaps to beat India. Litter enforcement, I knew it was going to be raised today, but Peter has already answered that sort of thing. But I would actually again highlight Watford does have one of the highest hit rates in the highest quartile of tackling fly tipping and enforcement of it. But yes, I would add on littering and fly tipping, if residents witness fly tipping or littering with clear evidence and identifying the person, then please report it in and enforcement action will take place. I reported a fly tipping incident that I witnessed and successful enforcement action took place. I could go on about fly tips and how the Labour-led authorities in Hertfordshire really don't do too well at it at all. But in Watford, 1,346 fly tips were reported in 24-25. In Labour-led Stevenage and Labour-led Welwyn Hatfield, both reported over double of what occurs in Watford, both reporting over 3,005 fly tips. And Watford had more enforcement action than theirs. So yes, we are keeping it lower and we're keeping it on top better than the Labour-led authorities in Hertfordshire. But yes, all fly tipping is bad and we will do our utmost to get it done. Of course, I could go into the dismal days of when Labour were in control in Watford, but I'll forget that now today, yeah, when it was actually known as Watford. Those days are long gone. I've left out much of the political stuff, but I do currently... That's been very good tonight. I currently pity Labour nationally and locally. They were so ill prepared for coming into government, and their performance and low opinion polls prove this. And locally, they have to face a high-performing Lib Dem administration with a great record. Clean set of accounts, meeting service delivery targets for residents, excellent parts, great leisure centres, value for money, the list goes on. And we're also, as Peter mentioned, we're in the top 3 of the best places to live in the UK. And the Lib Dem administration does this with no fuss, with no increase in its council tax. Thank you, Chair. I support the budget.
Councillor Begum, would you like to? Oh, sorry, Councillor Robertson.
Thank you. For residents, this is a great budget, a budget that targets help at those who need it, whilst maintaining really prudent financial management. I'm really particularly pleased to see council tax reduction scheme kept in full swing, which will be disproportionately helpful to obviously our most vulnerable residents. I'm particularly pleased to see the frozen share of council tax, which again will help those who really need it. And I'm really incredibly pleased to see the increased capacity in our environmental management team, which will help keep our streets clean, all whilst protecting crucial frontline services. However, this really must be seen as part of a wider situation where Herts County Council, and therefore by extension Watford residents, are worse off as a direct result of Labour's £41 million cut. These are cuts that are going to disproportionately hurt our most vulnerable residents. I grew up and sort of my first political memories were during the financial crisis. And I remember my parents and friends of my parents losing their jobs. And I remember the impact that had. And I can't believe that the Labour Party of Gordon Brown would be cutting the most vulnerable services. And actually, that's why I'm quite surprised to see the so-called fair funding formula be targeted at our most vulnerable residents here in Watford and across Hertfordshire. So I am disappointed in Labour's national approach today. And I think that shows the difference between a Lib Dem and Labour approach to public finances. The Lib Dems have got a budget here that protects the most vulnerable, whilst Labour have sadly decided to target our most vulnerable residents with savage cuts.
Thank you. Can I call Councillor Begginson someone?
Thank you. So I will not repeat everything my fellow councillors have said, but thank you so much. But I would like to finish off with a couple of comments. So this council, supported by an amazing Lib Dem administration, has a good track record of delivering services to budget, achieving efficiency savings and managing financial risk to continue to provide value for money services to our public. And I'd like to recognise my fellow councillors as well, because without your feedback and without your ongoing challenge and demand for making sure that we give our residents, our people of Watford, great value for money, we wouldn't be in the position that we are here today. And then secondly, most importantly, we have a mayor who makes sure that his drive and his passion to make sure everything we do delivers good value for money, supports the local economy, and most importantly, puts the people and residents of Watford at the heart of everything we do, is what's behind everything that we've been able to deliver in the budget today. So I just wanted to recognise that, Mayor. Thank you very much. Thank you to my fellow councillors. Thank you to everything that Labour doesn't do that helps us to drive everything that we do. And I'd like to fully support and second this report. Thank you very much.
Mayor Teller, would you like to sum up?
Thank you, Chairman, and I will be brief because I think we've covered a lot of it. I must say I felt slightly unnerved by Labour agreeing with everything. I thought, what have we done wrong? But it's great that there's no amendment that they will be voting for our budget, which I think is the first time that's ever happened. Just picking up on a few comments. So Councillor Bell mentioned about the need for more social and affordable housing. Rightly praised Councillor Pattinson for his work. I know that there's, I know that he can't prejudge, but there's a proposal in his ward to deliver 25 new social housing along with more affordable housing. It's really important that we all recognise the housing crisis that we face both locally and nationally when we make those decisions. Councillor Williams talked about it being a wondrous budget. I thought his speech was wondrous. It's just a shame that he kept off all the political stuff. I'd love to have heard the more political version of it. And finally, it was great to hear Councillor Robertson's first contribution when he talked about one of his earliest memories being Labour's financial crash. I was thinking he actually does mean the 2007-8 is one of his earliest memories, not the kind of winter of discontent that I'm sure some councillors can recall. So thank you again to officers and members for your contributions. And I think in a historic first, we're going to have a unanimously supported budget. So thank you all.
Thank you. We now move on to the recommendation. Does Council agree the recommendations as outlined in paragraph 3.0 of the Budget and Council Tax Resolution Report on pages 173 to 175 of the updated agenda pack? All those in,
I do it one by one.
yeah, okay. I'll call on Liam to ask members in turn to how they want to vote.
Thank you, Chairman. I'll start with you. Chairman Ezefed?
For.
Mayor Taylor? For. Councillor Ahmed? For. Councillor Ansong? Right, okay. Councillor Begum? For. Councillor Bell?
For.
Councillor Braglio?
For.
Councillor Clark-Taylor?
For.
Councillor Zinzer? Councillor Deduta?
For.
Councillor Grimston?
For.
Councillor Hill?
For.
Councillor Hoffman?
For.
Councillor Johnson? Councillor Kloss?
For.
Councillor Martins?
For.
Councillor Nembard?
For.
Councillor Osborne?
For.
Councillor Pattinson?
For.
Councillor Robertson?
For.
Councillor Anne Saffrey?
For.
Councillor Glenn Saffrey?
For.
Councillor Shah?
For.
Councillor Sharp?
For.
Councillor Short?
For.
Councillor Stokesbury? Councillor Summer?
For.
Councillor Sullivan?
For.
Councillor Wolford?
For.
Councillor Watkin?
For.
Councillor Wenham?
For.
Councillor Williams?
For.
That is unanimous, Chair.
Thank We now come to the motions. One motion has been received, and let me see the time. What's the time now?
9.
It's 31 past 9. Okay. So one motion has been received. I would like us to conclude this meeting by 10, if it's possible, if you work with me. I would like to ask members not to repeat the same things other people have already said. That will help us. I would like to remind all councillors that the mover of the motion has up to 7 minutes with a right of reply up to 3 minutes. Everyone else has up to 5 minutes. So the motion has been proposed by Councillor Kloss and seconded by Mayor Taylor. Details are contained in the agenda. An amendment has been circulated and is still moved by Councillor Kloss and seconded by Mayor. I will now invite Councillor Kloss to move the motion. I understand that both groups have agreed on the amendment. Okay. So can I call on Councillor Kloss to move the motion? You have up to 7 minutes.
Thank you, Chair. It's not often that something surprises me, particularly around the workings of Watford Borough Council, but one thing particularly recently was a suggestion from the Labour government that we might cancel the elections this coming May. In fact, this I found completely jaw-dropping that such a suggestion. That the government could take it so lightly that we would just cancel democracy. Of course, the context is the local government reorganisation and unitary councils. But that future model is not at all decided yet. There are a number of quite fundamental proposals on the table, and the decision is yet to be made what that looks like quite considerably. And the timetable is proposed, but not locked in yet. That could change as well. So, the current model of democracy, which is the workings of Watford Borough Council and the elections for Watford Borough Council, must continue until there is certainty about the future. A second point, the mayor and the councillors who are up for re-election in 2026, I'm one of them, we were elected in 2022 for a term of 4 years. If the elections were cancelled, then we would serve a term of 6 years, or possibly even longer if the unitary changes are delayed. And I find that deeply undemocratic and actually disrespectful of the voters who voted us in for a period of 4 years in 2022. In other conversations and debates, much has been made about the cost of running elections and that actually the elections might distract from the work of preparing for the unitary councils. All I can say to that is, what's the cost of democracy? I think the costs of running the elections and putting some focus on elections in 2026, that's a very small price to pay for maintaining democracy. So, of course, Watford Borough Council didn't request to postpone the elections. We were very clear. Mayor Taylor, on the day it was proposed, actually, was in the media saying that was a really bad idea and would undermine democracy. So we didn't do that. And of course, last week the government confirmed that Watford elections will go ahead, and I'm for one very pleased about that, and it's absolutely the right decision. We decided to keep this motion in for this meeting to confirm the council's commitment to democracy for the residents of Watford and for Watford Borough Council, and until such time as there is a clear and specific model for the new unitary council and a specific plan for the transition from Watford Borough Council to whatever unitary model that we have. So this motion is to confirm that commitment to democracy going forward, and I commend it to you. Thank you.
Thank you. And I invite Mayor Taylor to second. You have up to 5 minutes.
Thank you, Councillor. I'd like to second and reserve my right to speak.
Thank you. Do any member wish to speak on this? Ian? Is there any other member wish to speak on this? I only have Councillor Bell. Councillor Bell.
What now?
Yes.
Oh, sorry, I thought it was Councillor Stott speaking. No.
Okay, do you? Yeah.
Okay, thank you, Chair. Yeah, I mean, we obviously did ask what was the point of having this motion when obviously it had already been decided. I can understand if it obviously to do with the council timetable, and obviously the monitoring officer did look at this because clearly the original motion talked about, if 26 was cancelled, as you say, since then the election's going ahead. We agreed that they should go ahead. You did talk about, and you talk about you might end up serving for 6 years if you get re-elected again. But obviously, if the proposers do go as a pace, and we do get the shadow council elected next year, I don't think, and I know we can't be sure that we will have this. This will probably be the last elections for what. So we support this motion, Chair.
Thank you. Do you still want to speak?
Yeah, really quickly. I mean, I was going to ask and encourage you guys to actually support this motion then, because I think it's quite important to highlight that there's division even amongst the Labour Party about whether or not this is or isn't cancelling elections. For my money, I think we need to remember that this isn't some policy wonk decision that we make in a council chamber. Oh, it's probably technically all right to do this because it might save some money in 1 or 2 years' time. The public view this as cancelling democracy. They view it as democracy denied. And, that is our fundamental job here, is to be in service to the residents that we serve. And they do not view cancelling elections as something that is acceptable because there may, as Councillor Kloss pointed out, there may or may not be new elections under an unknown timetable for reorganising local government. It's completely ridiculous to also ask only the leader of the council to be the person that makes that decision. And you've seen examples even in Hertfordshire where large proportions of the council disagree with the decision, but yet still elections are cancelled by a leader. It's also, I would really urge this Labour group in Watford to condemn the fact that the only councils, I believe, that are cancelling elections in Hertfordshire are Labour administrations. So, thank you very much for bringing this motion. I think it's really important to make the case. And let's be frank to the people of Watford. You deserve to cast your ballots, put your ballots in your hand and put them in the box. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Would you like to sum up?
Yeah, thank you, Chairman. I'm conscious of time, so I'll be brief. Just a few things to follow on the point that Councillor Stokesbury made. So in Hertfordshire, we have 6 councils that were due to have elections this year, 3 Lib Dem-led councils. All 3 of them will be holding elections. 1 Conservative, and actually, to their credit, they're going ahead in Broxbourne, and 2 councils that are Labour-led. And guess what? Both of them are cancelling elections, in one case leading to the end of the administration, because the Lib Dem who support that administration well in Hatfield aren't prepared to go along with it. Nationally, there were 29 Labour-led councils, 21 of them are cancelling elections. So it's interesting that Nigel Bell says that they agree with it. If you look at the evidence of where Labour actually run councils, time and time again, they're running scared of the electorate, they're concerned about losing, they know they're nationally and locally they're unpopular, and so they're cancelling elections. I would just say that fundamentally, the reason I'm opposed to this is that there is a great deal of cynicism about politics in this country. We all know that when we're out on the doorstep, people are really quite critical of politicians just as a whole, not particular parties, just politics in general. And I think this decision really feeds into that cynicism. And the notion from the government that somehow elections are a kind of bureaucratic inconvenience, something that can happen if we can be bothered, but might not happen some years because actually it's too much faff and too much money, really is, I think, at its core, a flawed view of democracy. We're here to serve our residents, we're here to answer to them, and we're here to actually, if they say we're not up to it, then respect that decision and let the people who they vote in make the decision. So I'm glad that Labour are supporting it in Watford, but we need to be clear that across the country, Labour have decided to cancel elections, and that is fundamentally wrong.
Thank you. Councillor Claus, do you want to reply for 3 minutes?
No, I've said all I need to say, I think. Thank you.
Thank you. Could I invite those in favour of this motion to show their hand? Thank you. All those against? Any abstentions? Yes, it's carried. Thank you. And that concludes this evening's meeting. Thank you so much.